Okay, happy birthday to Robert. Thanks for joining us on your birthday. Today is, we're in Ecclesiastes chapter 5 today. We're going to pause after this Sunday for a few weeks. February is Black History Month. We're going to take at least 2 Sundays, possibly 3, to explore some issues around that. Next Sunday and the following Sunday, Dale and Debbie will be teaching and sharing some insight and perspective from their own exploration of this and their own experiences with it related to their tour of some of the prominent sites and areas related to civil rights. And so they'll be the next 2 Sundays. We will take a 3rd Sunday. And then also there's another event, and we'll share the details of this in Embrace this week, hopefully, connected with Guy and Haiti, and a really great opportunity for us to hear more. Right now. So, and then we'll come back to Ecclesiastes. So we're not even quite halfway through, but we'll finish out the book together. Okay. So we are in Ecclesiastes chapter 5 this morning. If you have a Bible or one of the journals, I encourage you to turn there. As I have so far in the series today, I just encourage you to try to walk away from our time together with an image, a word or phrase, an action, a prayer, or a question that you want to follow up on. And if you've got one of those journals, you might just jot it down or draw it down. Basically 3 sections here in Ecclesiastes chapter 5. 1 section on our God and the way that we relate to God. 1 section on our goods, our possessions, our wealth, and some insight, wisdom around that. And then 1 section on the good. What is the good in life, and some conversation around that. So we'll take each one of these sections. They're not terribly related to one another. They don't necessarily flow from one another, but that's kind of how the book works. We just kind of sometimes have these different topics that are brought up by the preacher. So we start off with your God, verses 1 through 7. What is one word that you would use to summarize what you think of as the ideal posture that we should take in our relationship with God? And I don't necessarily mean the physical posture, although that would be fine to comment on, but just when you think about your relationship with God, if you summarize it in one word, the way that you relate to God or want to relate to God, what word would you use? Julie?
Maybe because when I saw the posture, I said pasture, but I think of sheep.
Okay, a sheep. Okay. And what is that sheep doing?
Well, I think it's Psalms 23, just God providing, not lacking, yes, the waters for us. I'll say that
So that the sheep is trusting in the provision of God and following where God the shepherd is leading. Yeah. Okay, good. Laconia and Sheldon.
A desire for unmitigated honesty.
Unmitigated honesty. Nice. Sheldon?
I would think of the word grateful. Grateful for God's grace, God's mercy, and understand that the relationship between God and I, it's not equal and obviously, but just being grateful for the relationship. Oh.
Okay. Nice. Thank you. Scott?
Present.
present.
Yeah, I want to be present with God, and I know someone's present. So being in the same space together.
Good. I like that.
Perfect,
Perfect parent.
yes.
Good, thank you. Anybody online?
I always think of God as my perfect parent, so a child or, yeah, that's following along with Julie and Rosemary.
Okay, thank you, Annie. All right, so let's listen to these words from the preacher, verses 1 through 7, and then we'll walk back through them. So, guard your steps when you go to the house of God. To draw near is to listen is better than to offer the sacrifice of fools, for they do not know what they are doing, that they are doing evil. Be not rash with your mouth, nor let your heart be hasty to utter a word before God. For God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore, let your words be few. For a dream comes with much busyness, and a fool's voice with many words. When you vow a vow to God, do not delay in paying it, for he has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you vow. It is better that you should not vow than that you should vow and not pay. Let not your mouth lead you into sin, and do not say before the messenger that it was a mistake. Why should God be angry at your voice and destroy the work of your hands? For when dreams increase and words grow many, there is vanity. But God is the one you must fear. All right, so there's a lot here that really revolves around the idea of silence and quietness before God. So kind of take that as the organizing theme in these 7 verses, and look at the reasons why the author recommends silence, or at least few words before God. So the first one that he mentions here in verse 1 is something around that sense that thoughtless speaking or rash speaking can lead unknowingly to sin. So when he says, for they do not know that they are doing evil, he seems to be connecting with this idea that when we're in a space and we're just speaking rashly, we may be sinning unknowingly. Therefore, we should let our words be few. Second, in verse 2, silence is one of the ways that we recognize the supremacy of God. So as one of the motives here, he puts, for God is in heaven, and you are on earth. And that seems to be a way of saying, God is God, and you are not. Therefore, express your reverence, your awe to God through silence or a few words. Third, also in verse 2, what you say or what you don't say is a reflection of your heart. So it says, don't let your heart be hasty to utter a word. He doesn't say don't let your lips be hasty to utter a word. He says don't let your heart be hasty to utter a word. So it's that recognition that what's coming out of the mouth here, all of these many words, they're a reflection of something that's happening in the heart. And therefore, few words may be a reflection of a heart that's more at rest, that's more reverent, that's more full of awe. The fourth one is in verse 3. For a dream comes with much busyness. And I think what the author is saying here is that rash words, thoughtless words, a stream of words really just indicate somebody who's too busy, who's distracted, who's focused on all these tasks over here. And by stilling yourself and being a person of few words, you regain focus once again. Number 5, silence is best because you may say, or you may vow more than you intend or more than you can back up. So that's the problem with speaking quickly or too much, is that you may say something that you can't back up, right? And that's part of the issue here of making vows with God. And then number 6, just in general, thoughtless speaking contributes to the vanity of life in general. There's sort of the sense here when he says in verse 7, when dreams increase and words grow many, there is vanity. So there's that word hebel, absurdity, meaninglessness, lots of different ways of translating that word. But the idea seems to be here that too many words just contribute to the absurdity of life. One of the reasons why life can seem so absurd is there are too many people saying too many things, right? So let's just stop there. So we have at least these 6 reasons why our words should be few. What do you think of these reasons? Do any of these resonate with you? Can you think of examples of any of this?
I can very much relate to when my heart is still solid on my lips, basically. When I'm at peace, I'm not speaking much. I'm able to listen to other people and not have to control the situation I'm in. Just like let God be the messenger. And I always tell my students and my children, we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we listen twice as much as we hear.
Okay.
So, I try to remember that myself.
Good. Yeah. So this really raises the importance of listening. We can't listen and show respect to others if we're living a life of too many words. So being a person of few words allows that to happen. Yeah. Good. What else? Which of these resonate? Aaron.
Well, picking sarcasm up and throwing it heavily into the ring, it seems that the preacher is not a fan of preachers. Second of all, it's just about saying, well, like what Sarah was saying, 2 ears and 1 mouth. But I remember a poster growing up that says, it is better to be silent and thought a fool than to open one's mouth and remove all doubt.
So silence recognizes the supremacy of God. So there are lots of times where I sit in the valley and I don't even know what to pray. But I'm silent in the presence of God, knowing that He will take care of me.
Okay. So being in the valley, sometimes we don't even know what to say, and silence can be a way of communicating our trust in Him. Yeah. Scott.
I think this whole idea, it's not only important for us, but it's important for us to recognize that some of the most profound things in the world are experienced by people who are not the loudest voice. And so listening, being respectful of silence in myself also means that I'm listening for God's voice if people don't have a voice, or if people do not always speaking loudest. And our culture today, we recognize and we pay attention to the loudest, weakest person, unfortunately. And I think there's a beauty all around us in the silence of individuals who don't come to the fore because we don't recognize God's beauty.
That's nice. That's very thought provoking. Robert.
I have a picture in my home tree. It says Psalm 46:10, which is be still and know that I'm God.
Right. It really does. This sense of Stillness is one of the ways in which we come to a greater awareness of God. Right? Laconia?
Yeah, I'm looking at number 3, and I'm gonna go with the Supreme Court because research in the last couple of years, and it's more gender-based, they had to institute a thing where each justice gets 5 to 10 minutes speak without interruption because all the women were being interrupted by the male.
Oh, interesting. Very good. Yeah. So being a person of few words allows other people to speak as well, to have their voice heard.
And it's not about how smart you are, you're doing it, you don't.
Okay.
Being a person who uses many words at times, and I don't think there's anyone in this room who hasn't seen that. What I often find is where I'm drawn to when I'm looking for advice or comfort or support is to individuals who do listen well, who are quiet, who are words. It's almost as there's a balance. I don't want to miss anybody in this room, so I'm not going to mention anyone in this room, but I think of 2 folks in particular, Bob O'Hannon and my friend Becky. And I was always drawn to them, or I am currently drawn to them because of that style, their reflection of that quietness and of that ability to listen contemplatively and then speak. And maybe not even at that moment, but then being honest that this is not the moment for me to speak as we listen. And there are, like I said, there are many, many people in the congregation who do that as well for me. And I'm also drawn to the 5th point, when you say that more than you intend. There's a book I read one time called The 4 Agreements by Miguel Ruiz, and I'm sure it's familiar to many people. And one of the agreements is let your yes be yes and your no be no. No more, no less. And I think that's a beautiful reflection of that verse, verse 5.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you. Okay. Let's go to the second section, just to hit all 3 of them this morning. Your goods. Your goods. So we go from our God to our goods, verses 8 through 17. What's a word that you would use to summarize the ideal posture that we should take toward money and possessions? Yes.
They're tools.
Tools? They're tools? Okay.
They're tools for, ideally, they're tools for us to use when increasing that income.
Good. What else? John?
Along that same line, steward.
Steward. Very good. Robert?
They're secondary to God. I think I've read some books that talk about modern day idols.
Okay. They can get in the way of our relationship with God.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Someone online has to say something now. Kathy's reaching for the mute button.
Yeah, I can't even see it. The sun's in my face and I can't really see it. I would say first thing that came to mind was responsibility.
Okay, very good. Yeah. All right, let's listen to the words of the preacher. So this is a longer section, 8 through 17, and then we'll walk back through it. If you see in a province the oppression of the poor and the violation of justice and righteousness, do not be amazed at the matter, for the high official is watched by a higher, and there are yet higher ones over them. But this is gain for a land in every way, a king committed to cultivated fields. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. When goods increase, they increase who eats them. And what advantage has their owner but to see them with his eyes? Sweet is the sleep of a laborer, whether he eats little or much, but the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. There is a grievous evil that I've seen under the sun. Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt, and those riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is father of a son, but he has nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again, naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil, that he may carry away in his hand. This also is a grievous evil. Just as he came, so shall he go, and what gain is there to him who toils for the wind? Moreover, all his days he eats in darkness and in much vexation and sickness and anger. All right, so we might sort of lump all this together as a sense of that possessions are vanity. Possessions are part of the absurdity of life because, and then we're given several reasons here. One is that there's an endless bureaucracy that controls all of this wealth. So he talks about this, there's a high official who's watched by a higher official and still more higher officials over them. So there's a whole power structure in place that is having a negative impact on the way that this wealth is distributed among those especially who are oppressed. So we'll come back to this. Second, they require people with authority to create equity. There's some confusion of exactly what's meant in verse 9, this idea about a king committed to cultivated fields. But I think one way of understanding it is that things really go well in terms of possessions when the person that has the highest authority, king, is helping make sure that there are cultivated fields in the land. So the king's using his power, her power, to ensure that the fields of the land are properly cared for, and therefore all of that benefits the people of the land. Third, possessions, wealth, goods, they scratch an itch that can't be satisfied. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money. Fourth, as goods increase, so do the people who are dependent on them. So he says when goods increase, they increase who eat them. The more you have, it seems like the more people there are who want what you have. Fifth, possessions lead to sleeplessness. The full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. Six, they can be lost. Verse 13, riches were lost in a bad venture. So all these things we strive after, they can be lost. And seven, we can't take them with us. As he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again. There seems to be that sense of, okay, we're all going to die, and you're not going to take this with you when you die. And then the last one, verse 17, he eats in darkness and much vexation and sickness and anger, that in some way these goods, these possessions can lead to these negative things in our life: darkness, vexation, sickness, anger. Which of those, if any, resonate with you? Aaron?
Well, the word I was going to pick for the previous slide was transience.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
no matter what you have, it's transient. Unlike God, it's not going to last forever. And that's what all of these things say. No matter what you have, that doesn't last forever. Unlike God, who it does last forever. So maybe put your faith in what lasts and not in what you can grasp.
Good, thank you.
I'd like to just share a little personal information about making loss. It wasn't long ago that I had everything that I ever needed and most of what I wanted. but things happened and I lost Rob. And what happened is, I mean, I lost my clothing, everything. I had nothing. And what happened was when I was graced with even a brush to brush my hair and a bottle of shampoo, the feeling of gratitude that I had, I would never be able to experience had I not lost everything. And so I learned to be grateful for that experience. And so, you know, once you get past a certain point, there's this feeling of chains being broken from the possessions and the things and the money and the authority that goes along with those things. There's a little bit of freedom. Now, there's a lot of freedom, you know, for when you lose everything. It's hard, but I would never be able to feel that gratitude in my heart if I just always had everything back. So I think I really relate to the mistakes that you lost.
Wow, yeah, thank you very much for sharing that experience. That sounds very hard, and you're experiencing real fruit from it.
Yes, that's
Yeah, thank you.
I relate to number 4. When goods increase for those who eat them. I call it the Costco syndrome. You know, Costco, you feel like you have to buy 82 of everything because they're there to have. And I'm absolutely convinced that people that eat at Costco or can buy at Costco consume more. There's no question about it. But it doesn't. There's really no great satisfaction in that. You just end up buying something that then you don't have to buy for 3 years.
Good. Cost.
I think mine goes along somewhere with that. I'm not sure that it quite fits here, but you know, the adage that everything that you own owns you. And so that the more you own, the more you have to take care of all that you own. And I remember years ago when we bought our first swing set and we were so happy to buy a swing set for the kids, etc. And then I read the instructions and it said once a month I needed to go and tighten all the things and do all this stuff. And not that I did, but if you just listed all the things you own and what you're supposed to do to take care of them, you know, that would be more than a full-time job.
Yes. Kathy, you remember that this is being recorded, right?
Well,
We'll bleep that out.
Well,
John,
there were no childhood injuries, were there?
everybody survived.
I think that the preacher could have added in that here, and that is there's a responsibility. We talked about that a few moments ago. If you have goods, you have a responsibility of how that, they are not yours. They're entrusted to you. They have a responsibility of allocating them.
Yeah.
So that they don't harm other people.
I saw a hand pop up over here. I wasn't sure. Was it you, Robert?
Yeah, I was just going to say 7 reminds me of an expression that I've heard. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's something to the effect. You hold it with all the hearse.
The U-Haul doesn't follow the hearse.
Yeah. Let's say 7. Can't take the minutes. That's true. Yeah.
That's my takeaway.
That's a good image.
I don't know where this falls, but our sense of need or our sense of status is all wrapped up in who we surround ourselves with. So if you are someone who has a massive house and an outdoor pool you might be coveting the family that has a slightly bigger house and an indoor pool. Or, it's just, it's all about who you're comparing yourself with. You have to get out of that because it is a no-win game. I mean, there will always be someone who has more than you have, and it's a spiral that you can't escape from.
Yeah. And I would just note here that this is not the Bible's final word on possessions and wealth, right? There is great good that can be done with possessions and wealth. Going back to stewarding and responsibility. And so this is a particularly negative view on wealth and possessions. But it's not the only view in Scripture. So we have to hold these things in tension with one another. There's sort of a dark side to possessions and a light side as well. I think the preacher's goal here is to eliminate the pursuit of wealth as the absolute good in life, as the way to deal with the heavenly nature of life. Okay, let's hit the last one very briefly. This is a similar conclusion that the preacher has reached elsewhere as he tries to summarize what is the good in life. So verse 18, behold, what I've seen to be good and fitting, and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun the few days of his life that God has given. This is his lot. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them. So it's very interesting, that line there, in light of what we just read. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them, and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil, is a gift of God. For he will not much remember the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with the joy in his heart. So three things, the good in life is eat, drink, and find enjoyments in your toil and in your wealth. Enjoy what you have. Enjoy what you have. Related to this, he talks about enjoying, the ability to enjoy as being the gift of God. To whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them, or the capacity to enjoy them. In verse 20, God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. There's sort of the sense here that the ability to enjoy what we have is a gift from God. And so that there's a sense in which it's our responsibility. We adopt an attitude of joy, but there's also a sense in which this is a gift that's given to us by God. God enables us to experience joy no matter what we have. And then around all of that is the specter of death, the few days of his life, which God has given him under the sun. That keeping death in mind is part of what allows us to enjoy what we do have and to experience this gift that all comes from God. Thoughts on that?
Well, it seems to me that if you are occupied or satisfied with your lot, God keeps you so happy that you don't remember that you're eventually going to die. Because it says God keeps him occupied with the joy of his heart, so he doesn't remember the fact that the days of his life are few. So perhaps we don't worry so much about the future when we're happy in the present.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mary.
I wrote, this came out of me, the absolute, so therefore the absolute amount of money isn't the point. The ability to enjoy. For in this, we would be most productive for one another and best for God.
That's good. Laconia?
Julie,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, it's kind of interesting when we talk about retirement planning, people think, should I spend my very last dollar? Or should I have money to give to something else? I mean, it's a question that kind of goes through my head right now. What's better? Just make sure that spend yourself well.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting question in light of Ecclesiastes, because he's already complained about how you work hard to get this wealth, you leave it to the people behind you, and they make a mess of it. So he may not be the best retirement planner person to talk to, right? All right, we do need to end there, but three separate topics there. I hope you'll carry something away from that today. And next Sunday, we pause on Ecclesiastes. We spend some time on racial equity and justice. Thanks for being with us today.
You.